Back with the Fender Bassman 50, and we are going to go ahead and replace all 5 caps and double check the resistor values. I'm going to take you guys along for the ride. So to simplify, I'm just going to go ahead and cut all of the leads here. Just make it easier. So we need to remember that the positive on this one is going towards the tubes, and the positive on this one and the rest is going towards me. Here we've got the 220Ks. So now I'm going to go ahead and double check the values on these 220Ks. So 230, and then this one 216. So those are both pretty close. I know that you want these to be closely matched because I believe these are like balancing the actual voltage that goes to the caps. I could be wrong on that, but I think that's how it works. So you want those to be close, but I don't think that's a big enough difference to be a cause for concern or reason to swap those original 1 watt carbon comps. They're both well within spec. So, all right, let's go ahead and remove this one last wire. So now, let me go ahead and just lift this board up. So we have one screw here, and then one here, so we'll take those off. So no junction leads on this side. Looks like they just do it all on the top here. So I just want to take it off and confirm that. So now that I know, we can go ahead and put this back. And we will be cleaning out the eyelets. So I guess that's one pretty large difference between black face or maybe even early silver face versus this later silver face. On the black face, all of these kind of junction leads would be underneath, so it looks a bit cleaner. So now we can go ahead and clean out the eyelets. I'm going to start with the pump, and then we can move over to the wick to get things a bit better. All of the solder we removed. So this didn't look waxy to me at first, but I see now it is waxy. It's got wax to it. You can see it's kind of lifted up and bubbled here. So it kind of is what it is. Going with the MOD caps for the whole amp. So this one right here will be positive facing that way. This one will be like this, and the rest will be like that. So we'll go ahead and get this bent in place. I always say it does not take much. Okay, so let's go ahead and grab the other caps, which would be 20 microfarad, 500 volt. I believe, let's see, yep, 20 microfarad, 500 volts. We'll grab 3 of those. And those will also be oriented positive facing me. Beautiful. So there we go. We've got all of the caps siliconed in place, and then now we can go ahead and add the wires back and begin soldering. So I think I'm going to solder these resistors first. I should have done that earlier. I didn't really think about it just to make sure I don't accidentally hit any of the caps. I don't think I will, but next time I will do that because that would have been smarter. So we'll go back and add domes to everything when I'm done. But for now, we're just trying to get it to look okay, be solid, and then we can get everything right later. All right, there you go. Doghouse all done. Everything looks good, and this will be good to go for a very long time. So great, we can check this off the list. Now we just need the parts to arrive, but according to the tracker, they'll be here tomorrow, which means we can hopefully wrap this up pretty soon and hear how it sounds. So getting there. Hello friends, we are back here with the Fender Bassman 50. The goal is to get this all completed tonight. So I've gone ahead off camera, I just recorded a quick second of it, but I went and cleaned out the areas around the eyelets where these disc caps are that we saw some leaking before. So we shouldn't see any leaking there now. And then confirmed plugging it in that everything works correctly after doing the electrolytic capacitor swaps in the Doghouse in all of these caps here. I also played the amp and it sounds great. So these value changes that we did further down the board that you can't see, the 5 microfarad and putting in a 25 microfarad and then a 750 microfarad replacing with another 25 microfarad. Neither of those changes seem to have done anything negative to the tone that I can tell. It sounds very good. So I think we're good there. We'll let the owner be the final judge on that, but pretty happy. So the last things we need to do to this amp would be replacing the 3-prong here, swapping this out of spec 100K resistor, and then getting this bias circuit sorted, which involves replacing these 2 capacitors and then figuring out a way to get the bias perfect on this amp, as this is a, gosh, what do they call it? So this does not adjust the bias, it adjusts the bias between the 2 tubes. I'm blanking on the term for it, my apologies. But either way, there's a trick I'm going to try here to be able to give us both adjustable bias as well as being able to adjust the balance of the bias between the power tubes. And then the last thing outside of that, well, two more things. One would be adding the artificial center tap. I believe I should be doing that to this amp because it only has this one connection to ground when there should be 2. From what I understand, if there's 2 connections to ground off the transformer, then you don't need the artificial center tap. And the Bassman 50 schematic does call for it. So I think we're going to go ahead and add that here. And then swapping this power tube socket, which has a chip in it, with a new one. So we'll be disassembling all of these components and then reassembling them on a new socket and swapping that in. So quite a lot to do, actually. This is going to be a long time tonight, but I think we can knock it out and hopefully get this thing up and running ASAP. So that's the plan. I think the first thing I'm going to start with is this 3-prong, just because it's in the way and it's really ugly. and has been bothering me. So we're just going to kind of get this out of here, and then we'll probably do that as the last thing, but I just want it out of the way so I don't have to deal with this cord. So let's go and do that now. All right, so we've got that removed. This is attached in a really weird way. I don't know if you'll be able to see that or not. So I get to focus. It's almost like a claw, like this, like a triangle, and it's put between and then squished together. It's kind of what it looks like. I've never seen that before. And then it's soldered all the way around. I already know that's going to be a massive pain to try and remove. And obviously we'll definitely take the big iron. So that'll be fun to do, but we'll save that for later. And then this was, so here's the wire. This will go to the neutral, and then off of the 3-prong, and then the black, the hot lead, will go to the fuse tip here, and we'll just be bypassing this ground switch completely. And yeah, that'll be super easy. If you're curious and you want to see a video that's dedicated to just doing a 3-prong swap on a vintage Fender like this, or really it's applicable to any vintage amp, yeah, I have a video that I made just for that occasion. So I will put a link to that in the description, as well as put it up in the corner. So now we're going to go ahead and swap this 100K. According to the schematic, this should be a 5%er, and it is a 10%er, and it measures outside of the 5% tolerance. So we're just going to swap with this new old stock AB, which is a 5%er and measures within range. So let's just go ahead and remove that and get that done. Just to make things easier, I'm going to remove all of the leads from the eyelet. We might as well remove this white one while we're at it. All right, now we can go ahead and clean those out. I want to make sure that this side of the cap is not going to leak, so we'll just give it a little cleaning with isopropyl there. All right, now we can go ahead and grab our new lead here, mock it up. Nice little dome on there. Now we can get the other side all locked in here. Just add a little bit more solder. Perfect. That looks awesome, and we are good to go in there. So everything on the board here is done. Let me look one more time. Yep, so everything here on the board is done. We got all of the bypass caps swapped. We've got the 500 picofarad moved over here. We've got the 100K swapped. So everything here is done. We cleaned out the areas around these two eyelets where we're getting a little bit of leaky voltage. So we're good to go. So now we can go ahead and shift the amp over and focus on the bias circuit. So we're going to go ahead and swap these 80 microfarad 75 volts with these mod 50 microfarad 100 volts. There's a few different options you can go here. You know, pretty typically with the blackface or early silverface circuits where it's just got one bias cap. People do like the F&T 100 100s, and then I think now more people are switching over to the 50 microfarad capacitors. So yeah, I think we're going to go ahead and just do this. I've got 2 of them, and they should be more than fine here. So we'll do obviously the positive going to the ground connection, and then as you guys saw, the ground connection here was actually the other end of the lead on the Mallory, so we just cut that and bent it over. So we'll just kind of get our placement here, get that soldered in, and then we'll move on to this one. All right, so we've got the cap swaps done. This was very straightforward. This one, I had a couple options. One thing I was considering is going from here and then just cutting a short lead and going to the casing of the pot here. I didn't do that for 2 reasons. That's probably a smarter option, to be honest, but 2 reasons why I didn't. One is I'm planning on attempting to add a little trim pot here, which would also be soldered to the pot right here. I've never done it before. I've seen people do it, so I'm going to give that a shot. And I thought having, all of these things, 3 different things soldered to the pot the casing of the pot might be a little bit much, and it might be hard to get things to not kind of lift up as I'm heating up the pot to solder one thing here and one thing here, and just trying to make sure nothing kind of shifts or lifts. I just think that might be difficult. And the other reason is just to kind of match the original look, which is really unique and kind of quirky. So I decided to just keep it as is. And I put a little bit of silicone underside this so that it wouldn't move. And the leads are bent down a little bit so that it should be super solid going forward. So that's why I did that. Now, as mentioned, I want to do a little trim pot here to make this adjustable. To be able to change the bias, because turning this will not adjust the bias, it'll adjust the balance of it. So there's a few different trim pots I purchased. Let me grab them because I wasn't sure what would be best for this. So I've got something like this, which is very popular. See these used all the time. And it's got just 3 tiny, very thin little legs here. And so that would go somewhere over there. Or 2 other options I purchased are these bigger kind of disc style trim pots. So I got to figure out exactly how to lay this out and what is going to be feasible, because I'm trying to mount it on the pot casing itself. It's going to be tricky. I've never done it before. Either way, we'll go with probably one of these 2 just because they're a bit beefier. But yeah, I'm just not sure I want to have 3 things soldered to the casing here. So, all right, I'm going to go and look some stuff up and then we'll get started on this. All right, I just realized I forgot to hit record while I was working on this, but essentially what I ended up doing is using this little trim pot, and I used the existing solder on the pot case here to attach these 2 legs, the bottom leg and this leg, to the case to ground it. And then this one I soldered on the existing resistor's lead. I kind of wrapped it around. I left it long just because I'm not 100% sure this value is going to work or not. And then same thing here, this end going back to the middle wiper on this pot, which is where it was originally. So we're just going to quickly test with a multimeter, show that we're getting additional range. So we've got the black lead connected to ground on the multimeter, and this one will connect here. And so this resistor, it was a 16K, that's what it measured. So we're seeing that 16K here. And then presumably if I turn this, we should get into the mid-20s maybe. All right, so we got about 16K to 24K with this mod. And that should give us enough room to bias this correctly, but I won't know for sure until we actually fire it up and confirm with power tubes. But I do not have a 3-prong in it anymore to test that, so we'll have to do that later. So for now, I will leave these leads long, and then I will cut them short once I'm confirmed that that resistor value is fine. Okay, so next up, we're going to go ahead and replace this damaged power tube socket. I picked this up. I'm not 100% sure this will work. It looked like it had the right flange on it, so we're going to try it, but either way, the power tube socket needs to be replaced as it has a pretty bad chip in it in the corner. So unfortunate, but obviously much rather have this amp working than have a severely damaged power tube socket. So what we're going to do is take photos of this so I know where all the leads go. It's kind of confusing. You got this light tan, kind of a brown color, and then the heaters are pretty obvious, but then we also have some more fragile parts. I'm honestly not sure if I'm going to be able to transfer these resistors here, these original carbon comps. The leads are cut so short, it's going to be really tough, but I would like to because they measured fine, and I'd like to just keep this amp complete. So the goal is to kind of transfer those over. It's going to be more work on my end, but I'm going to give it a shot. So that's where we're at. So the plan now that everything has been removed from this tube socket other than this cap is to try and salvage it by using the big soldering iron to lift this ground connection on the chassis off. And then while I have it out, I will also work on getting this sorted. So yeah, that's the plan. It's a lot of work to try and save all this stuff. Honestly, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to reuse these resistors either that were original, but well, it's a valiant effort, right? You can't fault me for trying. Well, maybe you can, but I'm trying to learn here, and I don't mind going the extra mile to learn a bit more. So, all right, we got the soldering iron nice and hot, so we should be good to go. Perfect. Put that off to the side, and then we will go ahead and try and tackle this while we're here. Alrighty, so it looks like there is just yeah, it's just kind of like two ends that are crimped over, but there's a hole big enough to fit a lead in there. So I thought that might be harder than it was. So I think we're okay there to install the new power prong, or three prong power cord power prong. That's a funny name. Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and unscrew this socket. All right, and there we go. We can go ahead and take a look at that damage here. Quite a lot, definitely enough to justify swapping that. All right, so we got the old one out, and in taking it out and comparing to the new one I purchased, I realized that there is a bit of a difference here, and that is, you can see this one's got kind of a drop down lip here, whereas this one is completely flat. So the end result of that is if I put this one in here, which it fits perfectly, there is a slight gap on this side between this and the chassis, just a slight gap. Whereas this one, it's flat because you can see it kind of dips down. So the end result is it would work and it would be fine, but there would be a slight gap, which I don't like. So unfortunately, that is 100% my bad. I purchased, this. It's a Belton, Michelex. Those are, it's a brand I've heard of, and Michelex is the material, as I understand. I've heard of that before, so I went with that. And I did not realize that these have this kind of interesting step down leg. So I did find one that looks like it'll fit correctly. Looks like it's a no-name one right here. Phenolic, I'm assuming, is the material. don't know if you'll be able to see this at all. Let me zoom out. So that's unfortunate, but I think this one will work. You can see there how it's got a little bit of a lip to it, which is similar to the lip on this. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and order this, and unfortunately that's going to delay this project. I was hoping to get it all done tonight and fire it up, but that's okay. Stuff like that happens, and this is not a rush job. The owner said take as much time as you need, so we'll get it done, but that's where this video is going to end. So thanks so much for watching, you guys. Really appreciate you staying and yeah, watching this long. There's probably like 3 of you that got this far, but hey, I appreciate you 3. And until next time, I'll see you guys.